Hour 2 for clear water, clear choice, Culligan Regina. Filter out the bad and taste the good. Culligan Water of Regina. Check him out at culliganregina.com. We've teed him up as Canada's foremost NFL expert, but I know the conversation is going to roll around to Four Nations Face-Off because he's the best-selling author of many hockey books. But Jim Lang joins us from Toronto. Hey, Jimbo. Listen, Super Bowl 59, kind of a letdown. What'd you think?
Well, some people are calling it a letdown, Rod, but I marveled at the execution, the perfection of the Philadelphia Eagles last night. Their game plan, how the players performed it, how they managed the game. It's about as perfect of a Super Bowl championship game as you can find against back-to-back Super Bowl champions, against Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, considering who they played and the stakes they had and some of the criticism they had been dealing with all year with fans and media, not just in Philadelphia, but around the NFL. I don't know how Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts and Howie Roseman and the owner Jeffrey Lurie and the entire team could find any fault with that. I mean, I don't know how they could play any better than they did last night, right from the get-go. The relentless pressure of the front four, the opportunistic defense creating turnovers, the Jalen Hurts recognizing the run wasn't working and surprising everyone. Lamar, I know he knew and the coaches knew, but around the league with some of his passes he made, and just a phenomenal performance by the Eagles. Time and time again, every time the Chiefs thought they were going to finally get it going, the Chiefs just shut them down. It was perfection on the Eagles' part.
Please take a swing at our poll question today for EMJ Marketing. Will the Chiefs get back? Yes or no?
Yes.
What makes you say that?
How about that?
Well, their biggest problem last night was their offensive line. Patrick Mahomes, every time he dropped back to pass, his feet were never set to throw the ball. It looked like he was trying to breakdance back there to save his life. And the pressure was relentless. And every quarterback at that level will tell you it all starts with your feet and your legs and how you plant. So that is a fixable problem for the Chiefs front office to get offensive linemen through free agency, through trades, through the draft, and improve the offensive line. Because the Eagles' offensive line, I didn't even realize, I knew they were big, but they threw a graphic up there. They average 6'6", 340 pounds, average size. When you're that big and that talented, you're opening holes for the running game and you're protecting your quarterback. And that's something that, unfortunately, Patrick Mahomes is not getting younger. He has played a lot of football, a lot of playoff football. He's taken a lot of hits. And getting a strong offensive line around him, to me, would have to be the top priority for the Kansas City Chiefs front office and the coaching staff, because they still have a lot of pieces in place on both sides of the football. And they have been turning over key parts throughout the last couple of years to keep themselves relevant. But they need an offseason like Howie Roseman and the Eagles had, because that's one of the reasons the Eagles played as well as they did in the last half of the season and were so unbeatable in the postseason.
Okay, I'm going to give you the Jim with all the other things that I brought up. The halftime show, Tom Brady's job of color, the fact nothing's sacred anymore. Kellen Moore with the Saints comes out on Sunday, and Aaron Rodgers is done with the Jets comes out on Sunday. The best ad, I thought, was Harrison Ford, spokesman for Jeep, just when you thought he couldn't get cooler. All of the rest. What did you think?
I got to say, I like the Mountain Dew Seal ad. My wife thinks I'm bonkers for loving it because she thinks it's just silly and stupid, but that's my humor. So I like that. But the Harrison Ford ad was very good. Kendrick Lamar, I don't listen to rap. I don't listen to Kendrick Lamar. The people that do thought it was amazing and great. I listen to different music, so I'm not the person to ask about that. Tom Brady was okay. I'd give him a B to B plus grading on his performance in the game. I still miss Greg Olsen, but he did improve in some of the postseason games. And the one thing he does know and did bring good insight is to the mindset of a quarterback in the Super Bowl. I mean, he was there so many times, and the extra time in commercial breaks, extra time between quarters, extra time at halftime, he really brought that to light to a lot of viewers. And I thought he did some good points there. it's the Super Bowl. They're showing the celebrities. They have the commercials. They have all the pomp and circumstance. Harry Connick Jr. in the pregame. But at the end of the day, for the players, being able to sort of block that out and concentrate in the game, that's what you're there for. That's what you're paid for. That's your legacy. And for Jalen Hurts and especially Saquon Barkley, after being cast aside by the Giants and a lot of those Eagles players, it's pretty impressive. And I think we need to start giving a little more respect to their coach, Nick Sirianni. They lose a couple of years ago in a very, very close game to the Chiefs, where the Eagles did play well. And then they start the year 2-2, and let's face it, Eagles fans booed Taylor Swift yesterday. That's what Eagles fans do. They booed Santa Claus one time. So they're booing and they're upset and they're calling in the sports radio shows in Philadelphia and losing their mind. After the bye week, after week 4, when they were 2-2, including the postseason, the Eagles went 16-1. And the only game they lost in the regular season, Jalen Hurts got knocked out with a minor concussion. So they were that good from the bye week to winning the Super Bowl, 16-1. There's only a handful of teams in the history of the NFL that's had a run like that. And so Nick Sirianni, his ability to keep the team focused, to block out a lot of the noise out there, deal with everything in the 2 weeks, delegate authority to Kellen Moore, who I still thought he called a good game, but Vic Fangio defensively, that was just a masterful job. For a guy who's a lifer, has been coaching, he's in his early 60s, been around forever. He finally gets the platitudes that maybe he deserves and that he was denied in other cities, as you mentioned, Miami. And, he's been around forever and he's coached in a lot of different places. And people realize why he's so respected in the way everything unfolded last night and the way the defensive scheme that he created last night.
Yeah, well, and when Nick Sirianni fired both coordinators a year ago, I honestly thought he was just scapegoating, to be honest. And then they end up in the Super Bowl, and I'm like, oh, I guess he was right. It is a hell of a story.
And Nick Sirianni, he does things a little bit differently. By his own admission, he's a really emotional guy. He's the opposite of the Bill Belichick, who won't tell you anything. Nick Sirianni will tell you everything, maybe to a fault. But he was also savvy enough to last year identify that the team was missing something, made a pretty monumental change. This change both coordinators is quite unusual. That bring in Vic Fangio, who's not the young up-and-coming coordinator, a guy in his 60s who's 20 years older than Nick Sirianni, and give him the keys to the defense. And then Kellen Moore and him really tweaked the Eagles' offensive game plan through the season to focus on Saquon Barkley more. And that changed a lot of things, a lot of way people game plan for the Eagles, because you saw last night with the 72 yards rushing with Jalen Hurts, when he's got an opening, he's gone. And he picking up big chunk plays. And so defensively, they became a bit of a nightmare. And then we'll look at the game that Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown had, and they passed the ball better than people give them credit for. It's a pretty dangerous offense, and you add it all together with that. The fan base, it's hard to describe how crazy that fan base is. But they are among the most fanatic group of sports fans you'll ever find. It's a pretty special season. And the Eagles fans should be very, very proud. The players, the coaches. That game yesterday, that victory, there was no question about officiating or close calls or it could have gone this way. Yeah. No. From the time the ball was kicked off until the Gatorade bath, it was over.
Unreal. Regarding back to Tom Brady, or you saw me talking with Moose about could you ever give up on your team or stop cheering for them or switch teams or whatever. Rich in Edmonton writes, and he says, I'm constantly asked why I haven't walked away from the Raiders. Impossible when they've been your team since the age of 3. I just wonder if the NFL will ask Tom Brady to pick a lane this winter, or if we'll see him back next year doing color and owning 10% of the Raiders.
He seems to think, and Fox seems to intimate that he's going to be back. But that may be a decision out of Brady's hands and the hands of the executives of Fox Sports. By all accounts, by everyone's metric, that Tom Brady's very involved in the Raiders, how they're building it. Pete Carroll being there, Tom had a lot to do with that. Will Aaron Rodgers end up there in the offseason? All the reports are he's not going back to the Jets. Who ends up being the key to the offense, the leader of that offense? Tom Brady will have a lot to say. It's a great question to you, Rod. And I mean, unfortunately for the NFL media this week, they were obsessed with the officiating to the point that the NFL officials had to release a media statement, which I've never seen before in the history of the Super Bowl. I don't even know if I've ever seen it in any sport where the officials had to release a statement, and it just the reporters almost got blinders on. It will be a question and answer. But speaking of reporters, I know Arash Madani is a frequent guest, and his work this week, his interview with Drew Brees, his post-game interview with Sidney Brown from London, Ontario, Arash really knocked it out of the park this week in New Orleans.
Bingo! Oh, good. I thought you were going to continue. Okay, you were just
sorry.
I got you. It's all good. I could go on the NFL stuff forever, but I'm going to switch over because we have a lot of hockey fan viewers here. I'm very excited about the Four Nations Face-Off. I can tell you the hockey people are extremely excited about Four Nations Face-Off. I'm talking about NHL personnel, scouts, coaches, obviously the players. What's it like there?
I think there is an excitement. Now, part of me wonders, Rod, this is not a conspiracy. This is not the same thing as the World Cup of Hockey with all countries in there, or the Olympics with all the best of the best in there. Okay, it's cool. It's the Four Nations face-off. Are players going to lay it all on the line every single game to win or lose and potentially suffer a season-end injury for this tournament, knowing what's ahead in the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs? I'm not convinced. I'm expecting some good hockey. I'm expecting, as Moose said, I'm expecting Connor Hellebuck to really be a problem for Team Canada. And the USA's got some great goaltending. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm not sure how physical it's going to be. I'm not sure how intense it's going to be, but hopefully it's going to be as entertaining as I think it is. So I think it'll be quite entertaining.
Well, we'll find out, right? That's why we got to watch the games. But you and I at least are old enough. Moose is not, and I'm sorry to say, Clark is not. They didn't watch the Canada Cup. They did watch the World Cup, but they weren't very old. If the game of hockey has changed as much as it has, we see it. I'm not expecting that. Okay? Gretzky, Mario Lemieux. I don't expect that.
Think about, Rod, the 96 Canada Cup with Canada USA. I mean, that was unbelievable hockey. I mean, it wasn't maybe quite 87, but it was pretty good. And the one thing that kind of disappoints me is how expensive tickets are. A guy I played beer league with, he's originally from Finland, and he's going on the Saturday the 15th to see Finland, Sweden. And one of his clients has got tickets to Canada USA, and I think he was telling me the pair tickets of the Bell Center is like $1,000 for a pair of tickets. So the average fan doesn't have a hope of getting into there. The only reason I'm there is because of my client, because I'm not going to pay $1,000 for a pair of tickets for the Four Nations face-off. That's something hockey in general has got to look at. Like the average person, considering interest rates and the price of everything, to drop $1,000 in a pair of tickets for this, it just doesn't seem right.
For an exhibition tournament, Dale in Winnipeg, since you brought it up, he writes in, he goes, I can't afford Jets tickets, but I have Bombers, Gold Eyes, and Sea Bears. And Jack and I travel, as you know, that's his kid. So you can go to all these you got to make a decision with your money for sure. Like here in Florida, go ahead. What are you going to say?
No. I'm just acknowledging. Yeah, he's 100% right, and so are you. Go ahead, Rod.
A guy Jack came to me. I met him on a flight from here to Chicago a few weeks ago, and he's a season ticket holder. He's got 4, and his ticket prices are going up to $24,000. He's like, he goes,
what?
my business partner is not a hockey fan. So he's like, I don't know how I'm going to. Yeah, they hiked the ticket prices here, but the Panthers 20 to 60%, and they're still in the lower echelon of ticket prices. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, this isn't new for Leaf fans, right, Jim? We've been talking about that for decades where you live.
But, Rod, I think it's more of a general thing in sport, like all sports, Major League Baseball. I mean, I remember being in Humber College in the 80s. You could go to Exhibition Stadium and sit in the outfield for $4. But they had like these $4 nights and weeknights. So we could just hop the TTC and get in a bus exhibition place and watch a Major League Baseball game in the bleachers for $4. Like, you can't get in the stadium, any stadium, for anything for $4 now. And I know inflation and everything, but they've taken away the opportunity, say, for a student to go see a pro sports game or a young family in that. And I think that's why they rely so much on podcasts like yours and your show and streaming services and watching the games, because unless they win something in a lottery or a raffle, or they're gifted it in something, the odds of them actually buying tickets to some of these sports and some of these games, it's questionable because they're so expensive.
It's insane. Absolutely insane. But hey, it can't go on forever. And this Super Bowl ticket going from $12,000 down to $4,000. What do you think? That, like $12,000 in Vegas last year to $4,000 this year. What does that say to you?
Well, it says to me that people had Chiefs fatigue. I think they had enough of Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and the whole Taylor Swift thing and the Chiefs, enough of the Chiefs. So Chiefs fans who were rabid and like couldn't pay enough, they're like, well, I've been to, like, most of them have already been to see them win a Super Bowl in the last few years, right? So they're not clamoring. I mean, by all accounts, I know from listening, but all the reporters there say the stadium was heavily pro-Eagles, way more pro-Eagles than it was pro-Chiefs last night in New Orleans, because for the Eagles, it's a much, much bigger deal. And quite frankly, I think just the economy can't sustain that kind of aftermarket prices, because people, I mean, with everything going on in the world, just can't justify it, Rod.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Jim, I always appreciate the time, as you know. You rock, dude. Let's do it again soon.
Thanks, Rod. Take care.
Canada's foremost NFL expert, Jim Lang. I feel like we covered it all. We'll be right back with some tremendous comments from our viewers and a sports update, too. We're live here on Game Plus Television, streaming live and podcast wherever the best podcasts are found.